gentlemen, in the last session, we discussed the second part of our topic, that is American government after 9/11 and democracy assistance in the Arab Gulf states. Today, we discuss its next section, that is diplomatic front. On the diplomatic front, the American diplomats, they carried out several activities and they held meetings with government officials and private citizens. So some of the details are here. The US ambassador to Kuwait and his team visited Diwaniyas often. Diwaniyas. Diwaniyas are evening political salons. Evening political salons. It means people in the evening get together and they discuss politics. They discuss politics. This is called Diwaniya, evening political salons. They talked with people about how to develop democracy in Kuwait. The American diplomats, they talked with people how to develop democracy in Kuwait. During the 2008 US election campaign, American diplomats in the UAE carried out many activities. They arranged debates, they also arranged video conferences, seminars, and outreach programs. The purpose was to highlight the value of electoral democracy. What was the purpose? To highlight the value of electoral democracy. What is electoral democracy? Elections. Elections. The part of democracy which constitutes elections. So elections can be for the parliament, for the provincial assemblies, for the local governments, for the trade unions, for student unions, for associations, okay, for in law chambers, high judiciary, okay. So elections can be of many kinds, and they can be held for various purposes. Many different kinds of audiences were reached. Debates were arranged for university students and high school students. The debates focused on topics related to democracy. Video conferences were held for journalists. Video conferences were also held for students. Participants interacted with speakers in the United States. Seminars covered topics like women's role in politics. They also covered civic participation. I have already explained civic participation. Okay. From the American president to the secretaries, deputy secretaries, ambassadors, and diplomats, everyone kept the diplomatic effort active. Everyone kept the diplomatic effort active. In their speeches, they highlighted almost every aspect of democratization. They emphasized the need. They emphasized the need for democratization. Their speeches often included philosophical explanations of these issues. The president and his officials responded to all major arguments against democracy promotion in the Middle East. They also responded to criticisms. They also responded to criticisms. Can you go and tell them they are making so much noise? They also responded to criticisms. Middle Eastern governments were repeatedly asked to introduce reforms. Middle Eastern governments were repeatedly asked to introduce reforms. Who asked them to introduce reforms? Who asked them? American diplomats. American diplomats. They were asking the Middle Eastern governments to introduce reforms. Western governments were asked to cooperate in promoting democracy in the Middle East. The president and senior officials rarely missed a chance to emphasize the need for promoting democracy in the region. They expressed strong belief in the value of democratic governance. Democratic governance. At many international forums, Bush administration officials explained why democratization of the Middle East is important. They linked American security to democratization. They linked peace and stability in the Middle East to addressing political grievances. You know, political grievances, complaints. When there are complaints about the political system, about the government, there are political grievances. These grievances belong to people living under authoritarian regimes. At the diplomatic front, the administration tried to create better understanding of democratic politics. It tried to highlight the benefits of a free economy. It tried to highlight the benefits of individual freedoms. Individual freedoms. The strong emphasis on reform aimed to put diplomatic pressure on Middle Eastern regimes. It also aimed to encourage Arab people to raise their voices. People need to raise their voice when their rights are not ensured, when they don't have freedoms. So they need to raise their voice. It encouraged them to demand political rights. It encouraged them to demand reforms. Bush and his colleagues also criticized regimes for human rights violations, for corruption, and for bad governance. The Saudi government was criticized openly. The Americans openly criticized the Saudi government. Saudi Arabia was repeatedly designated as a country of particular concern. A country of particular concern. It is diplomatic language. A country of particular concern means there are serious problems with the Saudi government, with the Saudi system. For violations of religious freedom, US embassies in the Gulf also pushed the democratic agenda. American diplomats encouraged Gulf governments to introduce reforms in politics, in economy, and in education. American diplomats encouraged reforms in other areas as well. Next section of this chapter is 4.4, political, economic, and education sectors. The Bush administration followed a gradual approach for change. The Bush administration did not openly threaten the authoritarian rulers in the Gulf. The administration wanted to promote elections in the Gulf countries. It also wanted to strengthen parliamentary practices there. Many steps were taken for this purpose. Training programs were started, for example. Exchange programs were also launched. support was given whenever needed. Political reform became more important for funding. MEPI. What is MEPI? Middle East Policy Initiative. Middle East Policy Initiative increased funds over the years to match this priority. In electoral politics and parliamentary sport, the main goal was clear. Do you understand the parliamentary sport? What do you understand by parliamentary sport? Sport for parliaments in the Gulf countries, so that parliaments work well, so that parliaments become strong, so that the parliaments become effective. They make better laws. It is called parliamentary sport. The main goal was clear. The goal was to expand the role of parliaments. The goal was also to expand the role of consultative councils in legislation and in governance. If attention please, if kings have all the power, they make all the decisions. If kings themselves make all the laws, is it democracy? It is not democracy. If parliaments where representatives of the people sit, if parliaments make laws, they make decisions. Is it democracy? Yes, it is democracy. It means the power has shifted from king to parliament. So that is why strengthening parliament is important. So we Pakistanis, we also need to understand, if we want to have better democracy in Pakistan, we need to strengthen our parliament, we need to strengthen our constitution, we need to strengthen our assemblies, where our own representatives sit and they make laws for us. Programs were funded to improve the capacity of these consultative bodies. Members of Majlis Shuras were given training. They were also provided technical assistance. A US-funded NGO arranged training for parliamentarians in Bahrain. It also trained political societies in Bahrain. For stronger parliamentary politics, US partners trained members and staff of the Central Municipal Council in Qatar. They trained the Advisory Council in Qatar as well. They also trained the members and staff of Majlis Shura in Oman. Majlis Shura of Oman is also their parliament. It is their parliament. In the UAE, American officials kept encouraging the government. They asked for broader elections in municipalities. They asked for broader elections for student councils. American diplomats in the UAE also asked for broader elections for the Federal National Council, FNC, Federal National Council. So it is the parliament of the UAE. 2 Bahraini parliamentarians were invited to the United States. They held consultations with the US Congress. Do you remember what is the American Congress? Yes. What is the American Congress? American Parliament. American Congress is the American Parliament. So the Bahrainis, they held consultations with the US Congress and with American state legislatures. So what is the difference between American Parliament and state legislatures? State, there are 50 states in the United States. Every state has its own legislature, its own assembly. Just like our provinces have assemblies, provincial assemblies. Okay, so in Pakistan we have parliament and we have provincial assemblies. Similarly, in the United States, they have a parliament, which is Congress, and they have state assemblies, state legislatures. Every state has their own assembly. Assemblies, provincial assemblies are also legislatures because they make laws. Because they make laws. So, clear? All of you got it? No, I think many have not got it. State legislatures. Have you got the point? What are the state legislatures in the United States? Okay. American officials sometimes joined Bahraini parliamentarians in their open meetings. These meetings were held for ordinary citizens. A program was arranged in Bahrain to introduce the latest voting technologies. Voting technologies, there are machines. Now, in some countries, people use machines for voting. So, there are many voting technologies. The aim was to make election officials familiar with modern polling procedures. The purpose was to make the electoral process more transparent. Members of Majlis al-Shura in Oman engaged the public on environmental issues. This is done through a funded program. In Qatar, American officials met prospective election candidates. They held roundtable discussions with them. Qatar's Permanent Election Committee received assistance from a US partner. This help was given during the third election for the Central Municipal Council in 2007. The aim was to train the candidates. Another aim was to increase voter awareness. Before the 2008 elections in Kuwait, a voter education program was funded. Candidates were given help in planning and developing their election campaigns. US officials in Kuwait conducted several activities because the elections occurred at the same time as American elections. Video conferences were held in two universities. These conferences connected Kuwait students with American academics. I am on 86, slide 86. These conferences connected Kuwaiti students with American academics. Elections in both countries were discussed in detail. Now, next section is 4.5, strengthening civil society and media. Strengthening civil society and media. Do you think it is important for democracy to strengthen civil society and to strengthen media? Why media is important for democracy? Yes, media is a check. Media is a check on the governmental authority, and media sets agenda. It highlights the point which need to be addressed, which need some policy, from some action. So media is important in this sense. So these sectors, civil society and media, the Americans also paid attention when they were trying to push democracy in the Middle East and in the Arab Gulf countries. A strong civil society is needed to make any society more democratic. The Bush administration also saw this as very important. It made this a key part of its democracy promotion work in the Gulf. Democracy promotion work in the Gulf. They planned, Americans planned different strategies for this purpose. Programs were also started according to the social and cultural needs of the Gulf countries. In many Gulf countries, civil society organizations are not allowed by law. Civil society organizations are not allowed by law in many Gulf countries. In other countries, these organizations are allowed, but they work under very strict legal rules. The US government under Bush worked on many fronts. It tried to raise awareness about why a strong civil society is important. It said that civil society is essential for social development and for political development. The US government provided diplomatic support, moral support, financial support, and technical support. One of the goals of this support was to strengthen civil society in the Gulf. Over time, MEPI started giving more attention to the civil society sector. Middle East Policy Initiative MEPI supported a project in Bahrain. This project aimed to reform the civil society law. The goal was to reduce the distance between the government and civil society, to reduce the distance between the government and the civil society. In January 2008, 56 teachers were trained in Bahrain. This training was part of an American funded civic education program. Small grants were given to NGOs in Kuwait to strengthen them. The US Embassy in Kuwait started informal meetings every 2 months in 2007. People from NGOs attended these meetings. Diplomats also attended these meetings. The US ambassador in Oman encouraged reformers. Reformers. Who are reformers? Who is a reformer? Who? Yes, who bring reforms, who introduce reforms, who demand reforms, who ask for reforms. They are all reformers. The US ambassador in Oman encouraged reformers. He also encouraged civil society activists. He invited them to different embassy events from time to time. Embassy events, with the events which were held in American embassy. American officials in Qatar held informal roundtable discussions. They highlighted the importance of civic participation. Exchange programs were arranged for Qatari civil society activists. Exchange programs were also arranged for potential NGO leaders. In Saudi Arabia, US speaker programs were jointly hosted. These programs were held by the United States and local civil society organizations. The purpose was to support the development of civil society. Promoting civil society became more important over time. Became more important over time. Promoting civic education. Civic education also became more important. In 1997, 1/3 of US democracy funds went to civil society. By 2002, this amount increased to 48%. How much? 48%. The American government tried to promote an independent media. It also tried to promote freedom of expression in the Gulf. Financial support was given to journalists. Technical support was also given to journalists. Financial and technical support was given to media associations as well. Media associations, you know media associations? Media houses and media associations. Journalists, they form their associations. Media persons, they form their associations. So they are called media associations. Training programs are arranged for journalists. Media exchange programs were also arranged. Scholarships were offered for journalists. Some training programs were organized by Middle East Policy Initiative, MEPI. Some Gulf governments censor websites on the internet. To deal with this issue, America passed a law, the Global Online Freedom Act, HR 275, in 2007. This act became an important tool for promoting freedom of expression on the internet in Saudi Arabia and other Gulf countries. This act, I explained you what is an act. Last time I told you what is an act. Yes, what is an act? Yeah. An act that has been passed by the parliament. That has been passed by the parliament, that is called an act. This act told American businesses not to cooperate with countries that censor the internet. In 2007, two Kuwaiti journalists visited the United States under an exchange program. The purpose of their visit was to learn American journalistic practices. They visited media schools. They also visited media institutions. In 2007, funds were given to the Kuwait Journalists Association. Media institutions. What are media institutions? Any examples in Pakistan? Media institutions. Hmm? Raise hands. What are media institutions? You know, our newspapers, our magazines, our TV stations, our radio stations, they are all media institutions. Geo is a media institution, PTV is a media institution, Jang Akhbar, The News, Dawn, Pakistan Observer, these are media institutions. Okay? They have been instituted. But there can be other types of media institutions as well. For example, there can be institutes where media persons are trained. In our university, you know, there is the Department of Media and Communication Studies. So it is also a media institution. In our university, there is a radio station. Radio station, you know, campus radio. It is also a media institution. There is a TV station in this university. It is also a media institution. So they visited media schools and media institutions. In 2007, funds were given to the Kuwait Journalists Association, KJA. The funds were for drafting and to the press law, amendment to the press law. Under a grant, journalists, editors, and 8 NGOs from Kuwait were trained. They were trained in producing public service announcements on television. This training took place in 2007. In 2008, the US ambassador to Kuwait held roundtable meetings with local journalists. These roundtables were held throughout the year. In Qatar, two programs were funded in 2007 for training journalists. The purpose of these programs was to train them in reporting elections. Two journalists were given scholarships in the same year. In 2008, a political cartoonist from Qatar was sponsored for professional training. An editor in chief from Qatar was also sponsored in the same year. These scholarships and trainings were meant to improve journalism standards. They were also meant to improve media professionalism. Okay, how many styles are total in this file? Can you check? What is the total number of? 232. So should we continue or it is enough? Enough? Okay, we stop here. In the next class, we will discuss 4.6, human rights and women empowerment. Fine? So we conclude it here.